I love movies where the hero gets up in front of a hostile crowd and through logic, eloquence, and a sheer force of personality changes their minds and wins the day. We all love that because that's where the drama is. But the best persuaders in the long run do it without the drama. They know that, as Sun Tzu said, the best general is not the one who wins 100 battles, but the one who wins without fighting. And I learned this a long time ago when I was in the bank and I used to have to bring deals to the loan committee for approval. After the first few presentations didn't go so well, I started to study the system. And what I would do then is I would go to Chuck, who was the most respected member of the group, and I would say, "Hey, Chuck, I've got this idea that I'm working on. Can you tell me what's the best way to structure this deal?" And he'd look at it, he said, "Well, change this, add this to it, and if you do this, I think you'll have a good deal." So what would happen is that I would have a better deal as a result. More importantly, I would have a champion because once Chuck bought into it, he was committed to it because it was partly his idea. Then I'd go to the next person on the committee and I'd say, "Hey, Chuck and I think this. What do you think?" And what it did is it put me in a much better position to where I started winning almost every single time. The other thing it did is that sometimes I realized that if I wasn't going to win Chuck over, it wasn't going to work there, so I would just lose early. And my reputation started to grow as somebody who brought good deals in, and it became easier and easier over time. Now, in today's business world, it takes on average to get a important new idea presented or to get an important new idea approved, at least 20 people on average need to be involved, according to a book by Richard Shell and Mary Musa called The Art of Woo. So that means that you really need to plan your persuasion process like a military campaign. You need to line up your allies, you need to marshal your resources, you need to figure out what the opposition is doing, and you need to gather intel. And I like the military analogy because the military has a term called shaping the battlefield. And basically they're saying, don't go into a fair fight. Do everything you can beforehand to make the fight as unfair as possible. Saves a lot of lives and gets you where you're going. A little less drama, but a lot more success. So there's three reasons you need to do this. First of all, by spending the time beforehand, you're going to gather a lot of intel. You're going to know where people are. You're going to get more information that's going to improve and refine your idea, and you're going to start socializing the idea. And socializing the idea is important because there's an idea in psychology called social judgment theory. And think about it this way. On the range of people who like your idea and people who don't like your idea, there's 9 possible steps, or call it a ladder. At the bottom of the ladder, the people who are most opposed to your idea are the blockers. And you've got people who are opposed, and you've got people who are merely skeptical. In the middle, you have people who are ignorant. They don't know about the idea, so they're neutral right now. Or they're apathetic. They know about it, but they don't know why they should care. Or they're undecided. They know about it, they know they should care, but they haven't heard enough information to make up their minds. On the positive side, you've got allies, people who will vote for you if it comes down to a vote. There's coaches, people who will actively help you out. And then there's champions who will work real hard on your behalf and will even take chances. So here's the deal with social judgment theory. You can move a person in 1 or 2 rungs in maybe a one meeting, but you can't move them much further than that because our minds are resistant to change. It's extremely hard to move people. It takes time. It's kind of like pulling a heavy weight with a string. If you pull too hard, it's going to snap. And what that means is if you go to somebody who is maybe skeptical and you try to sell them on your idea and you don't succeed, what you've now created is an opponent or maybe even a blocker. And the third reason you need to do this is something I learned the hard way based on presentations that I would give to the city commission in my city here in Fort Lauderdale. And we have a saying, it's a little cynical, but it's called the fix is in. And what we've learned, those of us who are working on behalf of the public have found that by the time we get up there and we present something to the commission, they're not listening because guess what? Somebody has already been there before we have and has already done all the work. They're called lobbyists. They do this for a living. They know exactly how to do it. So they have done the thing that you should be doing when you're trying to get something in there. So there's a ton of things that you can be doing to prepare yourself for that all-important presentation. The Japanese call it nemawashi, or washing of the roots. And it's all about socializing, talking to the right people, gathering the intel you need. And is it going to take time up front? Absolutely. But I guarantee you it's going to save you a lot of time in the end, because if you go and you get shot down, you've dug yourself a hole that's going to take you a lot of time and extra effort to dig out of. There's one thing I can promise you. If you do the work to shape the battlefield before you go in there for that all-important presentation, you're not going to win any Oscars, but you're going to win a lot of deals.